My name is Naomi Rodriguez, and welcome. On behalf of the Los Angeles Dodgers, we're so excited that you joined us today for our first event of our series called Our Stories, Nuestras Historias. As a Latina, as a daughter of Mexican parents from East Los Angeles, it brings me great joy to celebrate the contributions of Mexicans and Mexican Americans that have played baseball. I would like to introduce now our moderator for this event. She is a 6-time Emmy award-winning journalist, producer, and filmmaker. Since the start of her career as a journalist, Giselle Fernandez has been known for her cutting-edge reporting in hotspots and throughout the world, interviewing prominent global and local leaders. Today, she's the main anchor for Your Morning News. You may have seen her on Spectrum One. I watch her every morning. Home of Spectrum Sportsnet LA, where you can get everything Dodgers. And most importantly, Giselle's a great friend, a community leader, someone that has our voice on the air, an incredible Latina, and I'm so happy to call her my friend. Please welcome your moderator, Giselle Fernandez.
Hi, que linda eres. Thank you so much, Naomi. I am so thrilled to be your moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. Honored that you asked me because our history, Nuestra Historia, it matters. Just as Naomi said, Latinos have built this nation, as you know, with blood, sweat, tears, passion, talent, integrity, intelligence, innovation. And it is vital that we shine a big light on how we have helped shape this great nation. And nowhere is that more evident than in the game of baseball. Yes, America's favorite pastime. I am a Latina myself, just like Naomi, so proud of my history, my culture, my people. Soy orgullosa de ser Latina. So any chance I get to celebrate who we are as a people and our immense contributions, for me, it's a true privilege. I was born in Mexico City to a Mexican flamenco father dancer, an American mom. She's a mariachi singer. Spent a lot of time in East LA at La Mercadito. I listened to my people and my culture and my music, and that's where I grew up. And so I'm thrilled to share this moment of commemoration with you in a game that we all so love. All right. So with that, let's get started. Nuestra Historia. The first part of today's event is dedicated to learning about the history of baseball in Los Angeles, the city of angels. And that includes the Barrio Leagues of East LA. And for that, we bring in Professor Dr. Richard A. Santillán, who's going to share with us his research, the stories of a handful of Mexican and Mexican-American players who've contributed so immensely to the great American pastime and made it what it is today. Just so that you know, the timeline that we will be discussing will range from the 1880s to 2000, providing us with over 100 years of rich, exciting history and stories of legends and victories and contribution. Dr. Richard A. Santillán, welcome, bienvenido.
Giselle, gracias. The Latino History Project was established in 2005 and is currently housed at California State University at San Bernardino. The primary mission of the project is to collect, document, and promote the long and rich history of Mexican and Mexican-American baseball and softball. All of us are volunteers. No one gets paid. We do it for the love of the game. The project has published 17 books. Our 18th book on Bow Heights will be released around April of 2021. Over 7,000 vintage photos, over 100,000 players and coaches, and over 600,000 words of text have already been documented. All of our books are currently in the Research Center of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. This presentation is only a mere glimpse of this amazing and extraordinary history. Vincent Nava, first row center, was born in San Francisco in 1860. He played semi-professional ball with the San Francisco Rhinos under the name of Sandy Irwin. Teammates Jerry Denning and John Montgomery Ward recommended that Nava be signed by the Providence, Rhode Island Grays. His teammates included brothers Harry and George Wright. The team won the 1884 championship defeating the New York Metropolitans for the American Association Championship. Nava's inclusion in professional baseball was not without controversy. Nava assumed the identity of being Spaniard throughout his professional career in order to deflect any discrimination he might confront as a Mexican American. The 1927 San Jose team from East Los Angeles was organized around 1927. Due to the lack of funds, they did not have team uniforms and their equipment was secondhand. Guadalupe E. Lopez, second row, third from left, was the team manager, and 3 other family members played on this team: cousin Steve Diaz, brother Jesus, and cousin Vicente Macias. Carmen Reyes, the daughter of manager Lopez, provided us this photo. The team played near Eastern Avenue and Whittier Boulevard, very close to the Calvary Cemetery. During the 1920s, there were dozens of Mexican and Mexican-American teams and leagues in the greater region of East Los Angeles. Most of the teams and leagues were sponsored by businesses, Mexican civil rights organizations, and labor unions. The 1931 Moctezuma team is seen here near Downey Park in East Los Angeles, only 2 blocks away from where the San Jose team played their games. The Diamonds were sophisticated, with outfield fences, dugouts, press boxes, public address systems, wooden bleachers, and food stand. Many of the teams were sponsored by construction companies and hardware stores who used their inventories to construct these sophisticated fields. On this team were 2 sets of brothers, Manuel and Pedro Barrios, and Rodolfo and manager and promoter Manuel Regalado. The Regalado baseball family roots can be traced to El Paso, Texas in the early 1900s. Manuel Regalado was considered one of the great managers of baseball during the 1920s and 1930s, including here in Los Angeles. Mexican food and the Spanish language were common at all the ballparks. The baseball field was a sacred place where the Mexican culture and language were immune against the outside world of racial discrimination, especially during the Great Depression. Baldomero Melo Amada was born in Mexico and raised in Los Angeles, California. His brother Luis Amada helped Los Angeles High School win the city championships in 1925 and 1926. Melo too helped Los Angeles High School win the city championships in 1930 and 31. Melo became the first Mexican-born player to play in the major leagues when he played for the Boston Red Sox in 1933 until 1937. He played in the major leagues with the Boston Red Sox, the St. Louis Browns, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. His brother Louis was invited to the New York Giants spring training camp in 1927, but failed to make the roster. Louis became a very popular player in the Pacific Coast League with the Seattle Indians and the San Francisco Missions from 1929 through 1937. Melo's son, Eduardo Amada, has recently published a book on his father, baseball career, both United States and Mexico. Joe Gonzalez was born in San Francisco and later attended Roosevelt High School in Ball Heights in the 1930s, where he made all-city honors. He earned a baseball scholarship to the University of Southern California, USC. Gonzalez was undefeated as a pitcher in his last 2 years of college ball. He later toured Japan with the All-American Baseball Congress. Gonzalez made his professional baseball debut with the Boston Red Sox as a right-handed pitcher in 1937. Joe DiMaggio once hit a home run off him. His baseball career was disrupted when he and his 4 brothers all served in World War II. One of his brothers was killed and another one wounded. After the war, Gonzalez came back and coached baseball at Roosevelt High School in the late 1940s to the early 1950s. He has been inducted into both the Roosevelt and USC Sports Hall of Fame. Gonzalez was the first Mexican-American to serve as a football referee for the National Football League for 21 years. He died in 1996. The 1942 Mario Service Station team is seen here at Wrigley Field in downtown Los Angeles. Okay, the next slide. Mario Lopez was born in Mexico and loved playing baseball. At the age of 16, he was offered a contract by the Cleveland Indians, but he needed to work to help his family. When he arrived in Los Angeles, he immediately opened a gas station and sponsored a baseball team named after his business, Mario Service Station. Mario recruited the best players in East Los Angeles because when his teams won, he gave them free gas. This was especially important during World War II when gas was rationed. Mario is seen here Mario's seen here in the front row middle, and his best friend and manager of the team, Tom Perez, is second row far right. During the 1930s, there were hundreds of Mexican and Mexican-American teams and leagues throughout Los Angeles. All the local newspapers carried their box scores, and thousands of fans attended each game. But World War II brought the games to almost a stop as thousands and thousands of Mexican and Mexican-Americans joined the military service or worked in war-related industries. The 1940s National Auto Glass Company team dominated baseball throughout most of the 1940s. The major reason was that manager Manuel Shorty Perez, first row, second from right, was considered a baseball genius, and every outstanding player, Mexican player, wanted to be on his teams because of his vast knowledge of the game and his outstanding winning records and championships. Shorty started playing ball as a youth in the late 1920s at Elysian Park, near where the police academy is now. He managed for over 40 years, winning numerous city championships. On March 13, 2011, a landmark event in East Los Angeles baseball history took place when the Manuel Shorty Perez Memorial Plaque was set at Belvedere Park in East Los Angeles. The plaque is at the base of the flagpole. Marge Villacreon was born in Montebello, California in 1925. Her older brothers, Ernie and Tony, were excellent ball players. Tony played for the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Yankees farm teams in the 1940s and 1950s. Marge played for several women's teams around East Los Angeles, including the Forum Club. She was the youngest woman ever to play for the Orange County Ball Club at the age of 18, even though they tried to recruit her when she was 16 years old. In 1946, Marge played for the Kenosha, Wisconsin Comets in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League until 1954. The 1992 film, A League of Their Own, is a story of the All-American League. Marge is an official member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. During those winters, she traveled with an all-star women's teams to Mexico, Cuba, and throughout Central and South America. Excuse me. At the age of 95, she still participates in many baseball and softball events. The Latino Baseball Project has collected hundreds of team and individual photos of Mexican-American women playing ball back to 1915 here in East Los Angeles. Women have been an important and integral part of Mexican-American baseball and softball community history. The 1951 Eastside Beer team played for about 4 years and produced several outstanding players, many who signed major league contracts. Many players were very active in politics and the labor movement after World War II. From the beginning of Mexican and Mexican-American baseball starting in the 1920s, community leaders promoted baseball as a political instrument to promote the issues of social justice and equality. Baseball games on Sunday were actually political meetings, as political and community leaders spoke between innings to the fans. Donations were made to hire lawyers to file lawsuits against businesses that refused to serve or hire Mexicans. A list of businesses to boycott was distributed. Citizenship and voter registration took place at the games, and donations were made for families in need of help. Many community organizations like the GI Forum and LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, formed teams in the 1930s and 1940s throughout the United States specifically to promote civil rights. The 1953 Carmelita Chorizeros team won the Los Angeles City Championship that year. After World War II, Mario Lopez sold his gas station and opened a pork factory called the Carmelita Provisions Company, and immediately sponsored a baseball team around 1947. Saul Toledo, an extraordinary player, sports writer, coach, and much more, gave the team the name Choriceros, the sausage makers. Toledo was often referred to as Mr. Baseball of East Los Angeles. In a brilliant move in Mexican-American baseball folklore in East Los Angeles, Mario recruited Shorty Perez as his manager. For the next 30 years, the Choriceros dominated Los Angeles baseball. They were called the well-earned nickname, the New York Yankees of East Los Angeles, winning 17 championships. Naturally, Mario Lopez and Shorty Perez were able to recruit the best players because when the team won, the players were sent home with an armful of pork products. The logo for the team was a pig with a baseball cap, with a bat and a glove. Rudy Regalado was the son of longtime East Los Angeles manager Manuel Regalado, who had managed in the 1920s. Rudy graduated from Hoover High School in Glendale and played at USC in 1949 and 1950 as an infielder. Rudy was scouted and signed by the Cleveland Indians and played for them from 1954 through 1956. He played in the 1954 World Series. He batted .333 in the World Series against the New York Giants, and Rudy's pinch hit RBI single in Game 4 was the last run scored by an Indian player in the postseason for 41 years. He died in 2018 in San Diego, California, at the age of 87. Hank Aguirre was known as the Tall Mexican because he was 6 feet 4 inches tall. He was born in Azusa, California, and raised in San Gabriel. He delivered tortillas for the family business to local markets before he was permitted to go and play ball. He was also an outstanding basketball player and later played baseball at East Los Angeles Junior College. He was scouted by the Cleveland Indians and signed a contract and made his professional debut in 1955. He had a brilliant 16-year career as a starter and relief pitcher. His best season was in 1962 when he won 16 games and had an earned run average of 2.21, the lowest earned run average in the American League that season. He played for the Dodgers in 1968. After his retirement, he established several businesses and hired many Spanish-speaking people in Detroit. Sadly, he died at the age of 63 in 1994 from prostate cancer. The Brothers Pena at one time was nearly the entire Choriceros team, was comprised of the 9 Pena brothers seen here at Belvedere Park in the 1950s. Even though they are wearing Carmelita jerseys, their caps have the letter P that stand for Pena. All 9 brothers played sports, especially baseball and football, at Roosevelt High School in Ball Heights from the 1930s through the 1950s. At least 2 of the brothers, John and Gabe, are still living. Their father, William, also known as Bill, is seen in the second row, third from right. He played ball in New Mexico in 1907 as a catcher. In fact, 7 of his sons were catchers on the team. Comrade Munatones left and Ernie Rodriguez right are seen here signing Los Angeles Dodger contracts in 1958, the first year the Dodgers played in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Comrade and Ernie played baseball at Roosevelt High School in Ball Heights in the early 1950s, and both were on the 1954 baseball team, considered by many to be the greatest Rough Riders team ever. Besides playing ball, Conrad was the student body president as a senior. Here, we see them both practicing on the field, with their Dodger uniforms. In 1954, Comrade received a baseball scholarship to play at the University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA, while Ernie went to play ball at East Los Angeles Junior College. The next year, in 1955, Ernie and another 1954 Roosevelt teammate, Art Velarde, joined comrade on the UCLA baseball squad. 3 players from the Roosevelt team playing on the UCLA team in the 1950s. Both Conrad and Ernie have coached for many, many years at Roosevelt High School, giving their precious time to coaching and raising money for the Roosevelt teams. The 1971 East Los Angeles Merchants team was a powerful squad during the 1960s and 1970s and continued the rich legacy of East Los Angeles baseball. The Merchants later changed their names to the California Stars. The team was known for its physicality and high-octane passion on the field. The team was comprised each season with outstanding players who graduated from Garfield, Roosevelt, Wilson, Lincoln, Belmont, Salesian, Cathedral, and other local high schools. Once bitter rivals, the Merchants and later the Stars produced several players who went on to play in college, in the minor leagues, and in Mexico. Robert Bobo Castillo was one of the great baseball stars from Lincoln High School in East Los Angeles. Castillo was a 3-time All-City player at Lincoln High School. He made his major league debut with the Dodgers on September 19th, 1977, retiring Hall of Famer Johnny Bench of the Reds for his first major league out. He pitched 250 major league games for the Dodgers and Minnesota Twins in a 9-year career from 1977 to 1985, winning the 1981 World Series with the Dodgers against the New York Yankees. He later played ball in Japan in 1987 with the Chunchi Dragons. Tragically, he died at the age of 59 in 2014 from cancer. Fernando Valenzuela played 17 years in the major leagues. Fernando was called up to the Dodgers on September 15, 1980, almost 40 years ago to this day. He pitched 17 2/3 scoreless innings of relief over the next 10 games. The following season, he was named the 1981 opening game starter as a rookie and shut out the Houston Astros 2-0. He became the first player to win the Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young Award in the same season. He was also the first rookie to lead the National League in strikeouts. The Dodgers won the World Series that season too. Fernando was the youngest pitcher to start the first game of a World Series and pitch a complete game, Game 3 against the New York Yankees. Fernando was quite a hitter as well, batting .250 and striking out only 9 times in 64 at-bats, and was the recipient of the National League's Silver Slugger Award for pitchers. Fernando Mania spread throughout the United States, throughout the Spanish-speaking communities around the world, and among all baseball fanatics. At the 1986 All-Star Game, he made history by striking out 5 consecutive American League batters, tying a record set by Carl Hubbell in 1934. And on June 29, 1990, he pitched a no-hit game against the St. Louis Cardinals. A quick note, I was there in 1980 when Fernando made his major league debut. I was there on opening game in 1981, and I was also there with my wife and son when he pitched his no-hitter. There's much more I wish I had time to add about Fernando, about his community and charitable work, helping and mentoring countless young players, his extraordinary involvement with baseball in Mexico, his remarkable baseball broadcasting career with the Dodgers, and literally making baseball more Spanish-speaking friendly. Fernando literally transformed baseball for the Spanish-speaking people, just as Jackie Robinson did for the African Americans. Finally, Fernando has been honored countless times, including his enshrinement to the Caribbean Hall of Fame. Currently, there are organizations in the United States and Mexico pushing for Fernando to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Adrián González was the first overall pick for the Florida Marlins in the 2000 Major League Baseball draft and made his major league debut with the Marlins in 2004. He was traded to the San Diego Padres, where he was an all-star selection 3 times and 2-time Golden Gloves winner. He played for the Boston Red Sox and was later traded to the Dodgers in 2012, where he played until 2017. During his extraordinary career, he batted over almost 290, over 2,000 hits, over 300 home runs, and drove in 1,200 runs. He made the All-Star team for a total of 5 times. While playing for the Padres, Adrián had a rare chance to play on the same team with his brother Edgar González. In 2012, Adrián's parents, David and Alba, were named the 2012 George and Barbara Bush Little League Parents of the Year. Adrián was also a very disciplined hitter, leading the majors in walks in 2019 with 119, and set a major league record of 8 consecutive multi-walk games, a record that still stands in 2020. In 2000, he had 40 home runs for the Padres and was named the National League Player of the Week for at least 4 times. In 2014, Adrián finished the season with 116 RBIs, the most in Major League Baseball, and was a Dodger nominee for the Hank Aaron Award. Unfortunately, I do not have enough time today to discuss his remarkable career in Mexico, both as a youth and adult player, about his broadcasting baseball activities. He and his wife are involved with countless community and charitable events and have established the Adrián and Betsy González Foundation. Thank you very much, and I'll turn the program back to Giselle.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santillán. It's so beautiful to see our rich history in baseball, all of the amazing players and barrio leagues that just did so much, to whose shoulders we now stand on. I was going to wax poetic and give wonderful introductions to the legendary Fernando Valenzuela and Adrián, but you have done such a good job introducing them, and I now welcome them for our panel discussion. Adrián González, the Titan, thank you so much for joining us today to lend your beautiful career and history and pride with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. Giselle, thank you for the introduction. And Dr. Santillán, thank you for that great history lesson on the barrios and all of Mexican and Mexican Americans.
Yeah, it fills us with pride, doesn't it? And we also welcome
Absolutely.
the legendary, one and only, responsible for Fernando Mania, Fernando Valenzuela. Bienvenido, Fernando. Thank you so much for joining us as well. I'm not seeing him, but I know he's here. So when he gets his camera turned on, we'll go to him. In the interest of time, we have lots of questions to get to. So Dr. Santillán, because you just gave us such a wonderful just history lesson, let me start with you. What about this history project, baseball history project, moved you so much to put all this together?
Okay. Well, because I think it's important for us to know our history as Mexican and Mexican Americans, and our experiences in this country. Baseball was not merely a game or recreational activity. It created family networks, in which later became political and labor networks, and the role of intergeographical intermarriages, meaning that it linked families throughout the United States, and the role of baseball playing regarding our national and transnational relationship between Mexicans in Mexico and Mexican Americans in both countries. This is an amazing history of Mexican American baseball. As you can see, is that the first Mexican American ball players started playing in Los Angeles in 1870. 1870, 20 years only after statehood. 150 years ago, Mexican Americans were playing ball in Los Angeles. And I think it's very important for us to document and to promote this history, because it's important for our young people, especially our young people, to be able to have heroes to look up to be able to strive to, people like Adrián and Fernando. So this history is important. I think it's also important, as I mentioned, to understand the importance of Mexican Americans who played ball in the military. This is something that we didn't know about. There were Mexican Americans who played during World War I, who played in France, who played in World War II, in Korea, who played in Vietnam. They played baseball as a form of entertainment for the troops. But then at the time of battles, they would go out and fight, and many of them were actually killed. And so I think that we need to understand this very rich and extraordinary history.
Well, I think it's also important, as you, I'm sure, point out, that born out of necessity came the barrio leagues, much like the Negro leagues,
Okay, exactly.
because Latinos were not allowed to play, so they had to form their own leagues. Adrian, let me ask you a question. When you look back at the Barrio Leagues and you listen to the rich history that Dr. Santillán just, laid out for all of us, what is the significance of those players to you? When you look back and go, wow, there were many who came before who defined the game.
Yeah, it's very significant. I mean, they all paved the way for us. I know my dad's always talking about the rich history that he grew up. We have uncles. One of my dad's uncles was a big player in a league like the Barrio Leagues out of San Diego. And my dad would go watch those games, and he remembers those type of games. And so for us, it's they paved the way, and they brought that love of, for the game of baseball to our culture and to our heritage. And so for us, it's very important to acknowledge and have something like Dr. Santillán has done here with these incredible books and history lessons.
And Adrian, how did your culture, how did being Latino, translate on the field and the way you played?
I mean, at first I didn't think much about it, but then when I went to go play winter ball in Mexico, I saw the atmosphere, the fun that everybody's having, and just being able to be loose, have fun, enjoy the game, and you see it in the Latino culture and the way that Latinos play the game. We express ourselves a little bit more. We're never trying to show up the opposing team or the opposing players, but within our own clubhouse, we're having fun, we're enjoying it, and I think it's part of who we are as a culture.
Absolutely. Fernando, I was around during Fernando Mania. Wow, it's just what a legend you are as well. What was it like for a guy coming from Sonora, Mexico, to hit Chavez Ravine and literally become a defining player for the Dodgers at the time? Must have been a culture shock.
Big changes. Thank you to have me. And really, for me, that was sometimes I like to look in step by step and not try to go too far up. So, but to play in Mexico for 3 years before I came to the Dodgers, and really it's a big difference, and to be playing against a big crowd and a lot of Mexican. Some Spanish people talking, and really that's a big one.
It was a big deal for us. It must have been a big deal
for me. It really that was a lot of fun. Big deal, yeah. That's really I think it's one of the best good memories for me, to be playing for the Dodgers.
Oh, I bet. And when Fernando Mania was going on, I mean, it really defined the Dodgers, defined baseball at that time and forevermore. Were you aware of the craze and the fans and the adulation? And you seem like a shy, humble guy. Was it hard for you to take all that attention?
I still quiet, but not really. What I try to do is just focus more in a game and really, when you come up in one team, you have to be more quiet, more relaxed, and follow what the all the players tell you, and don't much. But I think helped me a lot, to do my job, because all my teammates, they have many years already in the big leagues, and they helped me a lot, to just to focus in the game.
Well, you defined an era for sure and continue to do so with your broadcasting voice. Adrian, when you look back at your career, just your history, your historia, what stands out? Do you have a favorite moment? I know fans can really relate to your story. I mean, what, literally, when you look back at your career, do you go, that was the moment I knew I was making it,
No, I mean, it's hard to really define your career by one moment.
Yeah.
I think one of the proudest moments I had was when I was playing for Team Mexico and representing Team Mexico. For me, that was some of the funnest times, and just those moments that you're like, this is amazing. I mean, be able to represent your country is incredible. both in the WBC and in the Serie del Caribe. And for me, those were incredible moments that I'll never forget. And then, you always have the moments in the major leagues that your debut, your first home run, your first All-Star game. I was so fortunate that I was able to play for both the Padres and the Dodgers. Dodgers, obviously the biggest Mexican followed franchise in the world. The Padres are probably second in that regard. And for me, I was very fortunate, and I every moment I had here with the Dodgers was amazing.
You were literally living like the Mexican dream and the American dream. And in this, they're truly intertwined. It's such a synergistic relationship. There are no borders in the game of baseball. It's a beautiful
Absolutely.
thing. So Adrian, how would you describe or define the contribution that Fernando made to baseball? To Dodger.
I mean, yeah, it was incredible. It was everything. I mean, I remember my dad, I was born in '82, so I didn't get to see the first season of Fernando. But as I can remember, my dad would either take us to Anaheim or to the Padres, to Jack Murphy at the time, or even drive us up to Chavez Ravine here to watch Fernando pitch. And so, I mean, his contributions just on myself and my family to be able to love the game of baseball and want to play it and look up to individuals and have those role models. I mean, he was one of them. And so his contribution is it lives through me, and will continue to live through those players that want to play baseball because of those players that want to play baseball because of him.
Right. How beautiful. Lovely. And Fernando, when you look at the game that the Titan played, that Adrian played on first base, how would you define his contribution to the Dodgers and to the game of baseball?
Yeah, I think it's Adrian when he came with the Dodgers. That's we talking. My partners Pepe Iñiguez, say finally we have some player from Mexico to play every day, because we used to have the pitchers relievers, or not everyday players. And we talk about that one, and I think that's big help for the team and for all the fans. I think Adrian come up not only to play, but to do something for the team, and I think that was great when he got traded from the Boston to the Dodgers, and everybody was looking and saying, well, finally we have some real first baseman and to play every single day.
And Dr. Santillán, I do want to ask you, going back to the Barrio Leagues, because it's much the same way today when we go to see the Dodgers or any of our players play. The Evergreen Park, I mean, after church, that's where our Mexican families just flocked to, and we saw the guys in their uniforms. It was like a ritual because it was a community town gathering center. It's where we all got together. Historically, baseball brought communities together. Does it still do it today?
Not as much as it did before. It's still baseball and softball in the Mexican communities. It's interesting because there are still waves of Mexican immigrants still coming into the United States, and in the southern parts of the United States and the Midwest and to New York, up in Oregon. And one of the very first things they do is, besides going to church, is they start establishing baseball and softball teams. It's very interesting that there's a very deep-seated love of baseball in Mexico that's carried over into this community. But in the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s, even the 50s, baseball was a little bit different because I mentioned baseball had a much more political role to play because of discrimination and prejudice and segregation. I mean, baseball was one of the very few places where Mexican Americans, for some very few precious hours, could be immune from the type of racist discrimination about repatriation during in terms of job discrimination, in terms of housing discrimination. And so baseball was a place sort of where they could go, and as Adrian talked about, where people could have fun and people could express themselves in Spanish and listen to Mexican music and eat Mexican food. And there was a sense of respect of the people and players and so forth. That was something that brought the communities much more closer together, not just local communities, but other communities, because as I mentioned, there was an aspect of political and labor and civil rights purpose of baseball at that time. While there's still discrimination and prejudice, as we see in xenophobia toward Mexicans today in this country, baseball today in the barrios doesn't necessarily play that same role as it did as a political vehicle.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because now, we're in this pandemic and we can't have fans filling the stadium at Chavez Ravine, and the social justice concerns that impact us all. And we see how sports and athletics is really playing such a vital role. Because I only have about 15 minutes left, we have viewers who have joined us on this Zoom that are so excited that Fernando and Adrian are with us, and you too, Dr. Santillán, and I want to make sure they get some of their questions answered as well.
I hope they do.
Yes, they're so excited to be interfacing with you. That's the beauty of technology today. They may not be able to be in the stands, but they can connect with their favorite legends. This first question is for Fernando, and it's a question from Cristina Osolo in Whittier, California. And Fernando, she heard that Dr. Santillán spoke of Robert Babo Castillo, who I think taught Fernando the screwball. What is one of your fondest memories of Robert Castillo?
Hi, Christina. Yes, in '79, when I was in instructional league, that's when Bobby Castillo went to swim training and, instructional league to teach me or to help me out with the screwball, because our companies and that time the Dodgers general manager, he wanted me to have another pitch beside the fastball and a curveball, and that's when he went over there and tried to work it out with me, but that was a little bit difficult. I think every pitcher have his best pitch, and mine was the curveball. And really, that was a lot of fun, because we, after the in 80, 81, that's when we played together and gone all the way to the World Series, and that was that's great.
He gave you a lethal weapon in your toolbox. That's what he gave you. Yeah. Adrian, I have a question.
Mostly like that, yes.
Adrian, I have a question from you as well, from Anthony Rodriguez from Baldwin Park, California. And this is actually a question for both you and for Fernando. He says, we've already asked this question. What do you admire most in Fernando? Well, that's a little bit of a twist of mine. What do you admire most on Fernando?
Well, I mean, one of the things is, and you talked about it, Giselle, is how humble he is and how just great of a genuine of a person he is. I mean, I've met a lot of great baseball players, but you don't always see great people that go along with it, and Fernando is that.
See, it's always not just the athlete, because you can be super talented, but the kind of human being you are. And Fernando, Anthony Rodriguez wants to ask the same of you. What do you admire most about Adrian?
Well, he and help up a lot of people, and help him up other people, and I think that's great, Yes.
Yes, I understand. We're having a little bit of trouble with your audio, or maybe it's just mine, but I want to be mindful of that to make sure people can hear you. All right, this is a question from Perla Ortiz from Compton. And it says, in 2012, Adrian, you were traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers, as Fernando had pointed out as well, with one of the biggest Latino communities in baseball. Do you remember what was going through your head the first week with the Dodgers, your very first week stepping into your new world?
Well, it was the first time I had been traded during the season, so that a move from Boston to LA is very hectic. I know that there was a ton of excitement. I remember, the moment of my first at bat and hitting that home run, and I remember striking out the next 3 at bats because I was so exhausted. and in that first week, it was in the middle of a pennant race, and there was just so many different things going on, and it was it was one of those moments that just happened, and you're super excited. You have a ton of emotions because you're trying to figure out where you're going to live, you know, living out of a hotel at home and all these things. So it was a unique time, and a time that I will never forget, because it was just such a amazing time, and just getting to play for the Dodgers was just surreal, like I said, and just being able to play for an organization that's so huge and within the Mexicans and the Mexican American community, and has so much history.
It must have been a dream for you, for sure. But for your father and brothers and family, what did they say?
Everybody was so excited. Everybody was so excited to have me back in Southern California, and to be able to play for, again, like I said, you know, just an organization that's so deep and rich in Mexican and Mexican American history. Great.
And this is same for you, Adrian, from Jolene Rojas from Silver Lake, California. She asked, what was your motivation behind, and this is to the point that Fernando was making, your generosity through your foundation. She wants to know, what was the motivation for starting the Adrian and Betsy Gonzalez Foundation?
That's something that my wife and I had always talked about when we were first married, and we said that if we ever have an opportunity to establish our own foundation, it was something that we both wanted to do. We both have a great heart for giving and for just being involved in the communities. And the minute we were able to establish it, or we felt that we were, you know, settled in the major leagues, we established it in 2008 with the Padres. And we continue to just always look for opportunities in every city we played in. And it was just very important for us to always be involved and always be a part of the community and do everything we could in the underprivileged communities, and especially in the Hispanic communities.
There's so much need, as we all know. And this is for you, Dr. Santillán, from a person, Frank Sotelo from East LA. Mm-hmm. He says, being a leader of the Latino Baseball History Project, which you are, and the book series, what was the one thing, at least one thing, he wants to know, that you didn't know going into the series, that you learned and went, aha?
Okay. Well, this might be of interest to Adrián González too, as I found out that the first pitcher to win a game at Fenway Park in 1912 was Mexican American. Yeah, it was Charlie Hall. He was Mexican American. His mother was Mexican. His father, and he grew up actually in Ventura, California. But he won the first game at Fenway Park in 1912. Wow. Spoke Spanish, and when he played, during that time, he was often ridiculed by the other team, who would call him greaser. And that would always get him pretty angry. And so he would always have fights after the game. So he was very proud of who he was, but he was a very outstanding pitcher. Charlie Hall.
Charlie Hall. That's amazing. And also Ted Williams being Mexican American. I mean,
right.
That was.
I was going to thank you, Adrian. Yeah, that's another one.
Adrian, who is, I mean, other than Fernando and present company of the team, who was your favorite player?
My favorite player growing up was Tony Gwynn.
Oh.
Why?
Left-handed hitter. I grew up going to watch him play, and I mean, just the greatest sweet swing. Just such an amazing role model as well.
I love you guys. You talk so poetically about the game. Sweet swing. I love it. And Fernando, who is your favorite player?
I go with the same thing with Adrian. I think Tony Gwynn was the best hitters I ever saw, because he was a hitter like a force situation. If they need a home run, he's going to try for that one pitch so he can drive over the fence. If the team need a single, he's go for the single. So that's all depends about the situation of the game, and I think that's great for any players. And number one is Tony Gwynn.
And Fernando, this is a question from Andrew Ramirez in La Puente, California. He asks, being born in Mexico, what was the hardest thing for you to overcome coming to the U.S. and being a starting pitcher for the Dodgers?
Well, soon I decided to play professional. I know it's going to be hard, leave the family and then play different leagues in Mexico and wait to see if anybody signed me. So good thing that I signed, but that was a little hard. And of course, you know, the just to talk the English is that was one of the hardest not problems, but you know, the little difficult for me to start learning. But I told myself, well, you know, baseball is universal. Don't leave any.
Yeah, I kind of got what you said, but I'm missing
Spanish or English. The hard part. Right now, well, they have the interpreters and everything. Those days, nothing. You on.
Yeah. And this question is for you, Adrian. I love this question. It comes from Michael Puente from Norwalk. And he asks, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to young athletes trying to make it in the professional ranks, who look up to you and want to walk in your shoes?
That talent can only take you so far, and work ethic is going to take you to that next level. And, you know, when I first got to professional baseball in the minor leagues, I saw that the people that had talent that could be Hall of Famers in Major League Baseball, but they didn't have the work ethic, and they didn't get to the major leagues because of the lack of work ethic. And so, in everything in life, you have to earn it, and you have to work for it. And so if they want to be professional baseball players, they have to work and practice. And you know, when they're young, they have to go to school and they have to get great grades, because they're not going to be able to play if they don't have good grades. And that talent isn't going to just get you there. You have to work extra hard, work harder than everybody else. And like I said, it goes for everything in life, because no matter what you want to do, you have to study, you have to work, you have to put in the effort, and you should never expect somebody to hand something to you. You always have to go and earn it.
Don't you think that's part of who we are in our culture anyway? We are such an immense work ethic.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And Fernando, the same question of you. What would you advise young athletes who want to have a brilliant career as you both did? What's your biggest advice to them? Is anybody else able to hear Fernando or no? No, okay, I think we're having some difficulties there. We'll come back to you, Fernando, if we can get your...
I think, first of all, it is like the game. Maybe you can hear me. No?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I think it's just focus on the game. And I think that's, you know, if they want to play baseball or any sport, they have to be on time and, you know, to like the game. I think that's the way it's a good start, you know. And,
yeah, we're having difficulty with your audio, Fernando, but we got the gist of it.
This, you know, Dr. Santillán, Adrián, but I have to report to the game, to the stadium. So we have a game today. And
you told me you got to be at that game.
All the people was follow this Zoom. I want to thank everyone and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Fernando. And that concludes our wonderful Nuestras Historias, our look at the Barrio Leagues and on whose shoulders we stand, the immense contributions we Latinos, Mexicanos, Mexicano-Americanos, we make to the game of baseball. I think it's wonderfully ironic. We call it the great American pastime, you know, infused with the immensity of our great talent. And I want to thank you all, Dr. Santillán, Adrián González, the Titan, Fernando Valenzuela. Just thank you all to those who tuned in today on Zoom. It's so important that we share our story, that we define our own story and our narrative, and that we take pride in who we are and what we mean to this country, because it's not just the game of baseball, it's the game of life here in America that we have contributed so much to. So thank you, and to Naomi Rodriguez, who invited me, thank you. I love the Dodgers, I love the Blue Guys, and I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Good day.
All the best.